Hello, everybody, and welcome back into After the Sandstorm here on Gamecock Central. My name is Kendall Smith, joined alongside of Collyn Taylor here in Jacksonville, Florida at TIAA Bank Field, following a very tough loss for the South Carolina Gamecocks in the 2022 Gator Bowl. And Collyn, you know, this game was a really great game, and South Carolina fans showed up, they showed out. This was basically a home game for South Carolina, and they start things off and you think things are going well. They're up 21-7, and then Notre Dame just creeps back into this game. They take a lead, and South Carolina ultimately ends up losing the game. So what happened, do you think, from that first quarter where South Carolina was on a high to the end of the game where it just slipped out of their grasp?
Yeah, a lot of the same issues that really plagued this team all year. Offensive inconsistency, not being able to stop the run effectively at times, poor tackling, just some lack of situational awareness at times. They showed up again, and it got exacerbated because there was so little depth, because there were a lot of younger guys playing. And when all of those things kind of come to a head, you get a game like this where South Carolina found ways to make things really interesting, found ways to generate those points, but far too inconsistent. A game of really missed opportunities if you're South Carolina, but you can't question the heart, you can't question the fight, and that's something I think if you're Shane Beamer, you try and build on. And I do think this bowl loss, while it probably stings right now for the fan base, for the program, for the players, it doesn't overshadow the really good they did this year, where you get to 8-4, you beat some really good teams along the way, you end some streaks. And I think while it hurts now, over the next 2, 3, 4 days, some perspective will get added to it, to really try to understand how good of a season this was for South Carolina.
And you said it exactly right. And Spencer Rattler, during his post-game press conference, said he's going to remember the fight in this team. When he looks back on the 2022 season, he's going to remember the fight. He said it was a blessing to be here, you know, at South Carolina this year. He still hasn't made a decision on whether or not he'll return next year or enter the NFL draft. But he said it felt like the fastest year of his football career. And, you know, just last January, he came to South Carolina, and now it's a full circle moment, finishing up here at the end of December. Obviously, players like Spencer have been huge additions to this team for South Carolina, but from this time last year, even though South Carolina did win their Duke's Mayo Bowl game, to now, how much progress have you seen from this program, Collyn?
I think a lot. You see the track record of development at times. You see the pieces there. It might not be consistent. It might be frustratingly inconsistent at times for this fan base, for Shane Beamer. But you see the foundation getting laid, and I think that's evident in some of the guys who did want to play in this bowl game, some of the guys who did have career years. When you talk about Juice Wells, when you talk about a Nate Atkins, when you talk about a Jordan Birch, when you talk about seeing some of the progress from those guys, and you look at the recruiting class, has all the makings for potential top 15 class. You're landing some guys that you really targeted out of the portal, and that's where the foundation gets laid, and that doesn't happen without some of the success South Carolina had, you know, not today, but over the course of the season, and showing signs of concept, proof of concept, and that's what you fall back on for Shane Beamer.
So much to look forward to for this South Carolina football program, and a lot of young new faces that played today in the Gator Bowl. So thinking about the future, thinking about next year, Collyn, who are some of those names that Gamecock fans should really pay attention to for potential impact players in the 2023 season?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at a guy like O.D. Fortune, who had that pick six, had a couple good plays here and there. Someone who played sparingly is going to be a good player. Keenan Nelson looked really good in the secondary at times. Not a finished product, obviously, but looked good. Stone Blanton has played a ton. That's probably going to help him out next year when he comes back. That's a lot of good things, and Omega Blake got in the game. You saw Landon Sampson get in the game. That'll help them to where when they go out there against North Carolina next season, it's not the first of anything anymore. It's not the first time they got to play. It's not the first this. So those are some guys that jump out to me, but O.D., Fortune, and Keenan Nelson are the two that I think had nice eye-popping moments. And Xavier Leggett, a young guy, but really made the most of his opportunity playing as much as he did tonight.
Favorite moment from the season, Collyn, as we wrap up after the Sandstorm? Give me your best memory of this 2022 football season.
I'll go sentimental and say getting to travel with you guys. That was a lot of fun. You made those 6.5, 7-hour car rides. The Buc-ee's on the way home from Nashville will always live in infamy. So it's been a lot of fun, and getting to cover the game up at Clemson probably from an on-field standpoint was a lot of fun to be there and witness that kind of history.
Collyn is making me tear up here on After the Sandstorm. We have a great crew at Gamecock Central, the crew that I've gotten to travel with for the last 2 years. You, Michael Sauls, you guys have become like family to me, almost a little too close sometimes, the way that we share information about our lives, but I wouldn't have wanted to travel with anybody else. And this season, just being a senior at South Carolina, the win over Tennessee was huge. It was an emotional win for sure, because it's the last game at Williams-Brice for me as a student, and then the win against Clemson was just so sweet as a student and just very fulfilling. So those two memories will always stick out to me as well, and just of course the people we've got to be around, not just our GC crew, but we work with a lot of great people on the beat as well that we are very fortunate to be around.
100%.
So it's been a blessing this season. It's been so much fun, and we're grateful to all of you for tuning in to After the Sandstorm week in and week out. We started this last year kind of just as an idea, and hopefully it continues on. Who knows where I'll be next year, but hopefully it continues. And Collyn, you've done a great job, the hardest worker in the business for sure right here. So we are very grateful for you and all you do.
I'm more grateful for you and Sauls and the help that y'all have given me, and I'm not going to get too emotional on camera. We'll save that for later, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Sorry, everybody, it had to turn into this emotional show, but we did have to finish it off here for After the Sandstorm. A disappointing loss in the Gator Bowl for South Carolina against Notre Dame, but a lot to look forward to for this Gamecock football program. Here at TIAA Bank Field, though, in Jacksonville, Florida, he's Collyn Taylor. I'm Kendall Smith. This has been After the Sandstorm, and thank you so much, everybody, for watching.